property. You know, like any woman would need a man as a sort of lawyer or representative. You're almost like a child.
Hi, I'm Misha. That's Amy.
And we're making a documentary. Boom! Oh, wait.
And some of this goes outside of like the bounds of history. It's like anthropology or prehistory. But I do think that somewhere around like let's say conservatively 10,000, 2,500 BC, like this is before Christ, right? That people tended to be tribal, and I do imagine people lived by the water, right? Men in groups went hunting, right? That women in groups took care of kids.
In this type of tribal era, it was more so cooperative. Men hunted in groups and women took initiative of the family aspects. I hear a lot of people saying, well, men were hunting and women were staying back because men are stronger, therefore better, and that's kind of the answer to why men are better than women. But back then it was more so women were tended to be more valued as people, which is different from what they're talking about now, where women are kind of valued as objects, not really members in society. So there's that difference from this type of tribal era to where it's more patriarchal and collective. The patriarchy, a term that I often hear in the media surrounding feminist movements, or really kind of just in general. But recently, to me, apparently a lot of people don't really know what that means. And for those who don't,
Do you know what it is?
Yes, I know what it is. On what?
as of definition, a system of society or government in which the father or the eldest male is head of the family and descent is traced through the male line, or a system of society or government in which men hold the power and women are largely excluded from it.
Sort of like people owning property, right? Like a piece of land, right? That the original idea of ownership must have been over the wife and the children. Because she could run off with some other dude, right? You know? Which has happened, right? Taking your kids, right? So, like, to me, that's, like, there's that old saying, like, necessity is the mother of invention. But I would say it's a kind of dependence, you know, that men have on women. But because of that, there's like so many thousands of years of ideas about ownership, right? And so he owns something that he really cannot own. So I kind of think of it like the origins of the family, private property, and state is like, okay, so you're a dude and you have multiple wives because you need multiple sons, and like only one wife is, depending on the time, going to produce you one adult son. Because, I mean, like the death rate of, you know, mortality rates are really bad until like right around 1700, right? So, and you can see that with even, like I see that looking at court records and like a king and how many kids they have, and they have like so many wives, and you see how many of them die, right? And like 16 something, and you know, it gives you sort of new perspective of why women, you know, have been deemed worse, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a toll on your body and emotionally too, I would imagine it was really sad. You know? Yeah. You know, maybe men like can channel their anger, but I think women might like absorb that sadness, right? Which is a more depressing sort of, it's a way of, it's a sort of mindset that encourages you to like just suck it up and cry rather than fight back, right? But anyway, you start seeing like the limits of this sort of collective power of, you know, king and then his dominion. It's probably around 1600, late Renaissance, that you start seeing individualism. And also, I'll say a lot of these father-headed families, it's only the first son that's guaranteed anything, you know? And so increasingly they're like second and third sons, right? And increasingly, like 1600s, more babies are surviving to adulthood, right? So you do start seeing like second and third sons without any sort of access to being in the patriarchy. It's like Prince Andrew, you know, or Harry. And this is, I think, this is also some of the beginnings of individualism. So a son is basically loyal to his father, right? It's with this sort of modern era individualism, liberalism, that's just like individual freedom, this era, right? That you start seeing a shift from like the individual's loyalty shifts from his father to the state, because it's the state that can guarantee him anything, you know. Then like in the latter half of the 1800s, you start seeing widow women with property getting the right to vote because their husbands died, you know, in this settled, you know, like in Canada or something, or, you know, so they need some sort of substitute representative, right? And the widow woman gets that. All women get that in 1920. This is what brings us to feminism and why we have such a question.
We constantly see the ups and downs in feminism and the evolution of female rights. And we know that men became individuals long before women did. And we know that a lot of countries don't have the same status for women as we do here in Canada. And we came a long way since then, and when it comes to voting in the 1920s for white women and eventually all races. And we see a lot of things like evoking the rights, like for Roe v. Wade in the US, and we see a lot of back and forth. But we know that, well, we don't really know, but we have the idea that we'll never ever kind of be equals. We're still looking towards that. But for now, we've made it a long way since what we
The very leading guide of sexism in science would be biologist, naturalist, and geologist Charles Darwin. Darwin was born February 12, 1809, and died April 19, 1882. He is most known for his theory on evolution and natural selection. Natural selection is the idea when species adapt over time to survive in different conditions of environments, predators, and conditions, which lead into other concepts and ideas such as branching onto sexual selection. Darwin's work would shock the people of the Victorian era due to his non-religious biases in his theories by suggesting that human evolution came from animals as a form of evolution. During this era, and shown throughout his work, would be the bias in gender, which seems to have been because of the high levels of Victorian-era sexism. Charles Darwin had very patriarchal views. The book, The Descent of Man, by Charles Darwin himself, proves that his ideologies on women were not exactly fact-based, but biased. The Descent of Man was published in 1871 and covers mainly the topics of his theory on evolution, natural selection, and sexual selection. Sexual selection is part of natural selection as it basically is species competing for a mate with good fertility. I will now be sharing some quotes from the book The Descent of Man. This is unfortunate due to him being such an influential person on his theory of evolution, which was one of the first stepping stones to these evolutionary studies, and ultimately make men seem like they're on a higher pedestal than women. This now leads to social Darwinism. Social Darwinists are people who truly believe in the term survival of the fittest. Social Darwinism has led to the justification of inequalities such as sexism, as we've been covering, racism, and eugenics. Eugenics was introduced by a cousin of Darwin named Francis Galton in 1883. Eugenics promotes survival of the fittest, and the aim of the movement was to breed out people seemingly unfit for society and ended up with many women having forced sterilizations. This movement became popular around the world in the 1920s. A big example of a eugenics movement would be in Nazi Germany between 1933 to 1945. Eugenics was targeted towards unmarried mothers, people with disabilities, people of color, the poor, and anyone else seemingly unfit for society.
Isha's out. Peace.
Peace.